guys. I wonder how lockdown is treating you. There's a few things that are funny about lockdown, aren't there? Last night I noticed one, it's that clap for carers thing. And we were outside our house, our kids have got pots and pans, they're banging them, they love it. And then there's that awkward moment about 5 minutes in where everyone's like kind of looking around, which neighbours are out, you start getting a little bit judgy. Who's clapping? Who's not clapping? Who's finishing first? And I don't know, is there someone down your road who's still going like 8:15, they're still going because they're just so thankful, or actually they just don't want to be showing up. But yeah, let us know what other things are funny about lockdown. What are you discovering? It's kind of like weird and a bit strange. So let's have a chat about them later. Right now we're going to dive into this really famous psalm, but I hope we're going to find new things in it to help us to see Jesus better. And the psalm starts like this: "The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul." So it's funny start to the psalm, isn't it? It's got this picture of God being like a shepherd and us being like sheep. But I think the first thing that David says is a bit strange. He says, I lack nothing. It's kind of like he doesn't have any wants. We all want stuff, don't we? There's all stuff that you want. I don't know about you, but I am really craving a burger. When I get out of lockdown, that's one of the first things that I want to go and do. But if I'm real, actually what I want right now is not just food, but it's some peace and quiet. This might be strange to you, but in my house it's very noisy, and I love my kids dearly, yeah, anytime I get a break, they're kind of jumping on top of me, on my face, and they're very loud and they're shouting, and I just want to kind of curl up and go somewhere quiet. And I don't know if maybe what is it that you are really longing for? Maybe some space from the grown-ups in your house. Maybe it's some space from your siblings right now. Maybe it's just to go out with your mates. What are you really wanting right now? Because this psalm seems a bit weird. He doesn't want anything. I mean, what is David? Has he turned into some kind of Buddhist? Or he's just kind of meditating and kind of thinking and trying to convince himself that he doesn't want anything? Well, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's the picture that David's given us. I think it's more about God and who he is. And the only example I could think of for this, and maybe you've got a better example, discuss it in your groups, is there that teacher at school, that coach at football, someone who knows their stuff? Like they know their subject so well, they're able to teach you in a way that is fun and engaging, that you actually learn stuff in their class. That teacher that helps you out when you turn up and you haven't got the right book or pen, they say, look, here you go, I've got this sorted. That teacher who stays late to help you out. That teacher when you sit down in their classroom and you just breathe. It's like, it's not playtime, it's not break, but it's like a breather in your day, because you know that their lesson is going to be safe. It's going to be fine. That is just a little tiny bit of the picture, I think, here at the start of the psalm. Here's this God who refreshes us, who gives us what we need. His presence means that we can breathe easy. God's got this. And so there is still stuff that we want, but you don't have to chase it in the same way. God has got this. So we're starting at the second part of verse 3, because I think that helps us. He guides me along the right paths for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. This is a bit weird, isn't it? The first part I read, he guides me on paths that are right, and God definitely does do that. He guides us in right paths, but he's also with us in dark valleys. Did you see that? Some call it the valley of the shadow of death. Some translations translate it like that. It's dark days. It's when our circumstances are dark. Now, dark can look like a lot of things. Right now, maybe for you, a dark day is just like you're so bored. Is life ever going to start making sense again? And you start getting down about it. Maybe darkness for some is they're anxious. Like, I'm going to have to start going outside again soon. I'm going to have to start being around people and having conversations that I'm not used to. And I'm even not keen on being on Zoom. And when I go out, like, what's going to happen? Am I going to catch this virus? And that anxiety builds up in your head. Maybe the dark days are because of people in your house that are difficult to live around. Maybe the dark days for you are people in your family that are sick and really ill. There's lots of different reasons we have dark days, aren't there? But I think we need to notice this thing, that he guides us even in those dark days. That God promises to be there. And it's his presence. He doesn't promise to kind of lift us out straight away of those dark situations. No, instead what he does is he comes into those situations. This is a silly example again, but on our youth camp last year, we had to call an ambulance out for someone. They know who they are. And all the time they had injured their leg and they were lying on the floor of this hall, and people were with them and chatting them through the pain. But I'm sure for this person, and they can correct me later if I'm wrong, there's that fear, like, do these people around me know what they're doing? Do they have the expertise? Are they giving me the right advice? What is going to happen? And then suddenly those blue flashing lights come in and the ambulance crew get out and their presence is there. Now, for this person, that situation wasn't over. Their leg was still injured. They didn't know what the future held at that point. But this ambulance crew comes in, and I'm sure there's suddenly this breath of relief. Their presence means that it's going to be okay. Their presence means that everything is going to be all right. There's this story of the disciples on the boat, and they think they are going to sink. Jesus' friends are all around, just like bailing out of water, this boat, and then they wake him up and they say, Jesus, don't you care? We are going to drown. Now that is a dark day. And maybe there are days when you feel like you're going to drown. And listen, what Jesus does at that moment is he stands up and he looks in the face of the wind and the waves and he says, quiet, be still. Jesus is in total command of any darkness that is in our lives. And his presence should be like that ambulance crew turning up. He shows up. He doesn't take it all away, but he's there with us. He is the way through. And so what does that look like in practice, though? I hear you asking. Well, I think it looks like this. I think it looks like stopping whatever situation you're in. If it's dark, you stop and you pray. Maybe you text a friend. I've often done this. I'm struggling with something. It's a dark day. And I text a friend and say, look, I'm having a tough time. Can we have a little chat? Can we have a little pray about this? Or maybe you turn even to this psalm and read it through and remind yourself that God is present with you right now in this situation. Right, let's crack on with the last section of this psalm. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. This is an incredible picture, isn't it? This table set out by this generous host, and across from the king sits his enemies. They're lined up. But he's not scared. He's like, I'm going to eat this feast before my enemies. Like, I want you to think about who your enemies are. Maybe that's hard to imagine because maybe they're not people. But just like imagine with me this weird scenario, okay? You've got this really bad guy, haven't you, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. You can replace it with Batman for Joker, or whatever kind of thing you know. Maybe some boxers that are fighting each other. But anyway, there's this really, really bad guy called Thanos. And he is like this supreme bad guy that no one can handle. And he's just destroyed loads of these heroes and totally beaten them. And I want you to think there's this moment right at the end of the story where finally Tony Stark, this hero guy, he gets this gauntlet of power and he can look Thanos in the eye knowing that he has got him beaten. There is nothing that Thanos can do at that moment. Tony Stark is in charge. And do you know what? It's just like the story of David and Goliath. Where little David, he walks up to this giant and he looks him in the eye and he says, I am not scared of you because my God makes you look like a gnat. And listen, friends, because of what Jesus has done, because he has won victory over our worst enemies. He has beaten our sin. He has beaten death. He has beaten the devil. Here's the picture that we will eat a feast one day in God's presence. He's such a good, generous host. But we can look right now, the devil and death and our sin that has crippled us in the eye, and we can say, you are no threat to me now. Death is no threat to you. The devil is no threat to you. Your sin is no longer a threat to you. And you can look across them, across the table, face to face and say, I'm good. I'm fine. You mean nothing now. And the second part of these verses talk about this other thing, don't they? That we can dwell in the house of God forever. I don't know if you're craving, like me, the end of lockdown. You're wondering what it's like because life has become so routine, even in a few matters of weeks, hasn't it? We're kind of used to being confined now. But I am longing to get out, properly get out, to go on holiday, to go to restaurants, to go to the cinema and eat popcorn and watch films. I'm looking forward to hanging out with my family and hanging out with my friends again. I'm desperate to do all that. But you know what? In reality, as we finish lockdown, we are still going out into a world that is in chains. A world that is still full of wars. A world that is still got cancer. a world that has still got nuclear bombs, a world that has still got terrorism, a world that is still full of people hurting each other, a world and a heart that is still filled with my sin. And so as much as I crave the end of lockdown, for the Christian, that is not the true freedom we look forward to. We have a dwelling place with God where there will be true freedom. No more wars, no more cancer, no more losing loved ones, no more my own heart that is filled with sin that I am unable to totally deal with. We have a home to look forward to. Guys, as you long for the end of lockdown, please let it remind you that that is not the final freedom that we get to look forward to as Christians. We have a better home waiting for us with Jesus. Let's pray now. Father, thank you for this psalm. Pray that it inspires in us new things today, fresh ideas of your goodness to us and your grace. Help us to remember that in the dark days you are there. And as lockdown comes to an end one day, we have a better day that we look forward to. Amen. Well, guys, we're heading to our Zoom groups now, so please enjoy them, please chat, please be open, let's be real, and let's enjoy this psalm as well as a bit of our laugh as well. Thanks, guys. See you later.